American Fable, written and directed by Anne Hamilton, is an independent thriller film about a young girl named Giddy living on a farm in 1980s rural America. While her family struggles with money issues and keeping the farm, she deals with the stress through stories and exploring the land. She faces a big moral dilemma when she discovers the land developer that is buying up all of the nearby farms is actually being held hostage in a nearby silo on their land. This movie was good. It was very thrilling, but it's not a perfect movie. There are some issues, especially having to do with it being kind of an independent film without a huge budget. So this film is called An American Fable, and according to Wikipedia, a fable is a succinct fictional story that features animals, creatures, forces of nature that lead to a particular moral element. And this film is exactly that. And while fairy tales sometimes have happy endings, a fable is darker because a lesson has to be learned. So we have a whimsical story that's actually a thriller, but also set in America. And for the most part, it works. This film is a satisfying watch. But disclaimer, it starts off pretty slow. Watching the first 10 minutes, I really felt the lower budget, independent nature of the film, mainly in the acting that didn't seem quite as polished, and also in some simple set pieces. But eventually I did become invested in Giddy's world, played very well by Peyton Kennedy. This film is mostly about 11-year-old Giddy, who doesn't have very many friends. She is close to her family, but most of the movie is her developing friendship with this man in the silo. No one knows that she is friends with this man, and there seems to be some kind of conspiracy to keep him there and hold him for ransom. The man in the silo, Jonathan, is a nice enough older man, maybe 50s or 60s. You feel sorry for him, but you're always kind of unsure what his motive is. Is it genuine friendship? To Giddy, it definitely is. Or is he just using her to get out? It's not really clear for most of the film, but what you do believe is that Giddy generally means well and doesn't really understand the magnitude of the situation. She often peeks into her parents' room and catches their arguments about money or other issues, and we always only see it through the slit of the door. As the story escalates, because we're with her the whole film, we also see how she grows and adapts to these new issues as they come up. And it's pretty well done, and we see her gradual growth as a character. Now, regarding her family, Giddy has a great relationship with most of them. There's a lot of really effective scenes with her and her father, between her and her mother, and the film does a good job of establishing how loving these relationships are. And then there's her brother. One of the very first scenes we see him in, he's chopping some wood and tells Giddy to put her hand on a stump. Now, what he does next is pretty messed up, and it was totally shocking to me because we started the film with a loving father and daughter relationship, and all of a sudden we have this young 15-year-old-ish kid who seems like a psychopath. I was really curious at what direction they were going to take him, because it seemed like he was going to be in stark contrast to her other relationships. And I just want to say I respect this film a lot for how they develop this character and the direction they ultimately take. The trailer seems like there would be a lot more fantasy elements, and there are some, but most of the fables and stories told within this movie aren't actually told visually. They are just told through conversations. And I thought that was pretty cool. And I mean, looking at the film, it doesn't look super high budget, so I don't think there was any way it could have been like, let's say, Pan's Labyrinth, where we actually see the fauns and fairies and the no-eyed person. Now that I think about it, they actually are very similar stories. A young girl dealing with big issues far beyond what they can process at the time. But I like how confident this film is in letting the stories kind of carry their own way, and they don't need the visuals, they just need to be told. And they're engaging enough, but more importantly, all of the stories that the characters tell each other are relevant to the overarching theme of the story. One of the big problems, though, is, like most fables, the stories are pretty simple, and the dialogue itself, while competently delivered by everyone, is equally basic. There's no line that kind of stands out, no conversation that you haven't really heard before, but as a whole film, the tone and types of story is consistent, so we understand why these stories are being told. So once again, as long as you have a clear idea of the theme, boring or even bad dialogue isn't going to completely sink your movie. And the characters are kind of boring because of their basic lines, but from another perspective, that also makes them feel more real, since most people don't talk that great anyways. The most interesting and bordering on ridiculous character is definitely the brother. I had mixed feelings about him because of the way he's played, but he's necessary, and ultimately I did enjoy his performance, even if it was over the top at times. If you can make it past the 2/3 mark of this movie, I think you'll really enjoy it. The payoff is really good. I give this film a B. It's a daring and confident film with a very good third act, which I think makes it worth the watch, despite its lack of polish and some middling dialogue. That's my review of American Fable, and it's available to watch right now on Netflix. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and want to see more, and I'll see you guys next time.